I've started streaming again.
Okay.
I think I had the wrong stream name. Yeah, I did. I don't know where I was streaming. I had a completely different number inside our stream key. Maybe our stream key changed. We are now officially, after many technical difficulties, we are on YouTube. I think we're good.
Okay, everyone.
Let's just do it. Let's just
Is
do
it possible to cut off the first part on the YouTube stream later on?
Yep.
Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Which means, George,
we're started. Let's do it. 3,
you know what?
2, 1.
To all units, proceed to your post assignments. All units, proceed to your post assignments.
George Trombley, Mark Van Dijk, Mark and George Show.
And we're off. This time, maybe not to a flying start, but at least to a bumpy start.
Definitely
hey, George, how you doing?
Definitely bumpy. I had my seatbelt on the entire time, and the captain would not turn off that damn seatbelt sign, even though we had to go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we did.
Yeah, me
for show number 3.
Yeah, you're
the Mark and George Show.
It's amazing that now that we've started, you're not peeking in my headphones anymore. But I am still going to have to run you through a gate, I think, on my end once we finally do this when my equipment arrives.
Yes. Thank you, Kami-sama, for fixing that part. Yeah, it was a bit strange. Okay, you couldn't totally you couldn't exactly figure out the YouTube stream setting.
Yeah, I honestly don't know where I was streaming. I was streaming somewhere, but it wasn't to any channel that I own. I think I'll find out tomorrow that I hacked someone else's stream.
Maybe PewDiePie's stream.
It's possible.
And this is the first time that we're streaming live to the No Agenda stream as well. So just a little bit of technical background. We basically have almost the same setup, George and I. I am streaming this live to the No Agenda stream, which is an audio-only stream, and that's also the source we're going to use. Or, I mean, that's the same, audio source we're going to use to make the podcast, which is just the audio stream. But we also make a YouTube stream. Right. Can you tell us something about the YouTube stream?
YouTube is a video platform. I think everyone knows what YouTube is.
Of course.
I think
you're streaming, so you're also getting audio. And we're relating the audio over Discord, which is something very, I mean, it's a lot better than Skype, which is what the old guys use, Adam Curry, John Dvorak.
Yeah, Discord is a really new player in the chatting arena, and it's used primarily for gamers. That is their 100% their target audience. And I started using it about a year ago. It's a fantastic collaboration tool. We are not sponsored by Discord, for the record, because it sounds like we are when I say that. But you can do screen sharing. You can have a large group of people into voice chat. It's actually pretty fantastic, and that's how me and Mark. That's actually how I'm getting Mark's camera also for the YouTube stream.
Yes, and this is the first time I'm using an actual webcam instead of my phone.
Which is also fantastic. And I want to say that you might notice that Mark, if you're looking at the YouTube stream, he got into a big fight last night, and he got punched hard in the nose.
Yeah, you should see the other guy.
Yeah. The other guy, which is basically a tissue with blood from his pimple.
Yes. So thank you for tuning in to the No Agenda stream, where this is all audio and you don't have to be concerned about the gruesome details of the awful pimple on my nose I'm concealing after consulting with my makeup artist, George Trombley.
Yeah, the amount of convincing that I had to do to tell him to please cover it up with something. I don't know why I had to convince him. It was just this bloody mass on his nose.
I mean, yeah, you had to convince me to do a YouTube stream originally, and so I'm kind of like, people are, now that I've accepted to actually do a YouTube stream as well as the audio stream, people will probably be confronted with our appearance in a number of ways. So the pimple cannot possibly be the worst people will ever see. I mean, I don't know what is in store for us in the future, but.
Well, you know how they say, you have a face for radio or something like that? I definitely think you have a face for video. You have a very handsome face. You speak well. I think you deserve to be on video.
You mean that?
I really do mean that. I definitely, a little bit of pangs of jealousy at how great your hair looks when I'm over here calling the Bosley Medical Center, figuring out if there's an option for me to get my hair back.
Well, it doesn't show.
That's right. It's definitely hidden from this angle, and I will never turn the angle on the video. So
I see. So it's not on the front.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, my front looks great. Luckily, I'm not balding too bad in the front.
Yeah. Well, so you actually informed about getting a hair transplant?
I set an appointment for this last week, I think on Tuesday, and as it approached, they sent me text messages trying to confirm it, and I didn't respond. And then I went online and I started looking up the various hair transplants, and I was kind of lost interest in creating scars on my head, because let's say that the transplant doesn't take and it doesn't look good, and I say, you know what, I'm going to go full bald, which I've considered. Well, then I'd have this big scar on my head. So I responded to their text saying I'm no longer interested. And of course, they don't care about that. They kept sending me messages, and I had to basically be very rude to the guy on the call when he called up saying, we just like to see if we can find some solutions for you. Like, yeah, I don't. I think my solution is I'm going to go bald.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Stop sending me junk. So they pressured you too hard.
Well, they didn't know. I wouldn't say that. They were just doing due diligence. And now they're still sending me texts saying, what can we do?
I really hate it when companies send you text messages. I mean, please, you already know how to reach me by email and stuff like that.
I did opt in. So I did opt in to getting the text message. So
I see.
I think that's fine. Speaking of another text message, this is just a tad political. During the election cycle, I had donated maybe a few $100s to the Bernie side, and I know we don't talk politics, but I know. So, but then I switched. Obviously.
No, that rules off the table afterward. In the previous show, we told about the kind of politics we might bring up. So let's not talk about not talking about stuff anymore, and let's just talk, man. This is fun.
All right, let's do it. So I got this. So I donated to Bernie, and then Bernie got knocked out, and then I donated to Johnson because I was still very much on the left, and he was a better option for me. And then I didn't want to, and I had to vote for Hillary. I did not send her any money though, but I just got this yesterday from. This is what I got. Yeah, I got this yesterday from Bernie. He says, "Hi George, this is Jonathan volunteering with Our Revolution. We are asking people to sign our petition to encourage Bernie Sanders to run for president. Whether he wins or not, his entry will keep the focus on progressive issues such as Medicare for all and a Green New Deal. Will you add your name to our petition to encourage him to run? Bernie, run."
Oh,
I responded.
Really? He needs. That's a bit weird. Okay, yeah.
Well, I think it's interesting that maybe he's not interested in running, but I responded, I think we need new blood. And then he responded, no worries. Would you be willing to share some feedback about why Bernie Sanders does not yet have your support? Not yet have my support, as if I would, because my thinking has changed significantly. I'm not.
Let's see if we can tell you something that will change your mind. Yeah.
Yeah. I also think, regardless of that, he's a little bit too old, I think, to run for president. I would definitely like some younger blood.
Yeah. Well, there is younger blood in AOC.
What's AOC?
What's her name? Ocasio-Cortez.
Oh, gosh, please, no. Honestly, she's horrible. I do not like her. I do not like her. I understand people like her, but she seems uninformed.
Yeah, she does. But she seems to me like, the headpiece of a very big hydra, that mythical being where you cut off one head and two grow back into its place.
She does have some crazy eyes sometimes. I've seen shots of her. I'm like, okay.
Oh my gosh, it became so crazy. Also, my Twitter feed, which is not exactly liberal central, that I actually added some mute words so that all of the AOC related tweets won't show up anymore, because I'd rather focus on stuff that interests me than seeing people complain a lot about, the people that they don't like. It was the same with Bernie before the elections were over, of course. So I tend to just add mute buttons for that one, and for those things, the stuff that I really don't like, and move on to stuff that I
So
actually
you're
do
saying you
like.
actually look at Twitter?
I do.
Yeah, I don't even look.
I kind of do. Maybe it's better not to look. I mean, I really admire people who never go to Twitter. I look up to them. Like, oh my gosh, sounds like you have a life.
My Twitter basically is an automated bot sending out information from a new show coming up or something like that. I don't think I've ever manually put something on Twitter.
My usage is reducing. I like to get off on rants sometimes, or I mean, there's sometimes, there are just things that really annoy me and I need to get it out. And Twitter's like the perfect, because everybody does it. Twitter is mostly just, a place to ventilate and
Well, let me ask
release
you,
your complaints about stuff.
have you ever changed anyone's mind in your entire life? I want you to really think about that answer.
You mean on Twitter or in general?
Not just on Twitter, but in general. What is give me a percentage rate of people who've had a different opinion from you, maybe the opposite opinion, and you gave your facts, or you showed your logic, and they go, you know what, Mark?
Okay, well,
you're right.
Maybe I'm taking this in a different direction than you intended, but the first thing that pops up in my mind where I did manage to change people's opinion is when people look down on themselves, and I felt like, no, I really like you as a person. You're an important person in my life, or there's stuff I'm, learning from you. So you're not as bad as you think. And I think in that regard, sometimes I've managed to change someone's life or opinion about themselves. And there was one guy I remember, because our contact usually went pretty, or I went pretty deep probably, and when I talked with him, because he was always so down and depressed about himself. And years later, I already moved from my previous city to the city where I live now. Years later, he gave me a phone call out of the blue, and it was like 11 o'clock at night, so I was a little bit annoyed that it was so late. So I didn't answer the phone very friendly. But then he told me, "Hey, Mark, recently my mother died, and after that happened, I had to think about all the things you told me, and the memory of what you said to me really helped me through that process. And so I don't want to take much of your time. I just want to thank you for the support you've given me when it was in a difficult time for me." And I felt so, I choked up because I was trying to, be short with him because he phoned me up at a late time. But then suddenly this story came out, and I was really touched, and I didn't know even now it kind of chokes me up, because that was just the most beautiful thing that ever happened to me. So that's, I guess, one significant time I changed a person's life. But did it happen on Twitter? Absolutely not.
I mean, hitting the changing people's lives things, I've been doing YouTube and whatnot, and interacting with people who have purchased my books for now, I think almost 20 years, coming up on 20 years. So I'm not
And now that we're also streaming on the No Agenda stream, tell us a little bit more about all of that.
Well, very simply, it's very simple. I've written some Japanese language textbooks called Japanese from Zero, and those textbooks are extremely popular. And I created I have a channel on YouTube where I teach Japanese, and I've a companion series that works with that book. So not to promote, I'm not here to self-promote, but because of those books, I'm no stranger to having people say, even a textbook has changed their life because they would have quit Japanese or whatnot without it. But I do think over time I get a little bit callous over it. I don't get moved anymore by that sort of thing, and I just have a kind of a phrase that I say back. I'm happy to be a small part of your journey, and that's really how I feel, because it doesn't matter. I didn't change their life. I put something out there, and they chose to do it. And I think it's the same thing with your friend. You, out of a loving heart, gave him some advice that he needed, and he could have chosen to either listen to that or not listen to that. So it is still up to the person. That might almost lead into one of the topics we were going to talk about today, but I was trying to open up light, but that almost leads into a topic.
No, okay, well, go on. Tell us about the topic.
The light topic or the main topic?
Your main topic. Why not? I mean, it's a nice segue.
It is a nice segue. Well, I think the topic today, one of the things that I also think about a lot is free will. You know, do we have free will? And I think that's a good discussion to have today.
Okay.
Amongst other things.
Sounds good.
And
do we have free will?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
in that case, I don't want to talk about it.
Isn't that the joke you must always make with free will?
Of course.
Isn't that the same as isn't that the same as when someone talks about hearing, you go, "What? I couldn't hear you." Isn't that the exact joke you must make?
So is that my free will, or is that just the humor has to come out?
I would challenge us to not make the obvious joke, but I think it's hard not to. That is the absolute right joke to make at that point.
It is hard.
So I'll see you later. Bye.
Okay, bye. You want me to start clip one?
Yeah, go ahead and play clip one, and we'll see where it takes us.
You want to set it up?
Yeah. Well, this is just about some scientific experiments that have shown that the choices that we make can be measured in the brain subconsciously before we actually act on it or have the thought consciously. Go ahead and play clip one.
The basic idea of compatibilism is that a person may be free to act according to their own motives, but those motives are determined. One famous quote claims, "Man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills." This is evidenced by an experiment by Benjamin Libet, in which he hooked up subjects to an EEG and asked them to perform a simple action like pushing a button as soon as they were aware of the wish or urge to act. The results showed that there was always a period of time preceding the subject's conscious decision to act that indicated the brain had already made an unconscious decision. As of 2008, further studies had shown that the upcoming outcome of such a test could be found in brain activity up to 7 seconds before the subject was aware of a conscious urge to perform the action.
Now,
so 7 seconds, right?
Now, 7 seconds is a long time, and I want to count it out just for a second. 1, 1,000. 2, 1,000. 3, 1,000. 4, 1,000. 5, 1,000. 6, 1,000. Exactly. It's a very, very long time, and it almost seems unbelievable that an unconscious thought could be there that soon in. But in response to, I don't know what you think about that, but the way I think about it is, yes, it might be happening in a lower part of your brain, but it is still part of the overall human that we are, regardless of if we get to that conclusion. It's still going to happen, and we still have the ability to stop it when it comes up, when that thought comes up. 7 seconds does seem like a long time. I do want to say this though. Have you ever, this is a curious, I generally need to know from you, Mark, if this happens to you. Sometimes in the morning when I wake up, you know how you wake up and you just kind of open your eyes.
Wake up.
Right. And you haven't actually gotten out of bed. And you're sitting there. There's a thing that happens to me where I don't actually make the decision to get out of bed. And my body just goes, all right, we're doing it. And I start moving. And I've tried to consciously think, I'm going to be the one that gets out of bed. But so often when I'm not thinking, my body just starts moving. Does that happen to you?
Yeah. I guess that's one of the two things that happens to me. The other one is I really don't want to get out of bed. Yeah, but I'm serious. It's not even a joke.
But do you still get out? Does your body still force you out?
No, my body forces me to stay in, and I really have to force myself out, which is the exact opposite. But I know both. One of them is really interesting, and it always makes me very happy, because the other one is just honestly, before we started this podcast, I did have a lot of those days where I felt like I just please just let me fall asleep again. I really don't want to get out, and I don't really know why. I mean, it might be just a hectic life or something that makes me want to stay in bed. And I feel safe to say this because I imagine that many people can relate to this feeling of just you know consciously that you have to wake up or get up and start doing your thing, but emotionally you're just like, why?
Lethargic.
What's it all good for? Yeah, I guess kind of.
Are we kind of tripping into depression at this point? I mean, discussion-wise?
No, not really. No. I'm at least my emotional state. I'm totally. What's the word? Genki. I'm totally in high spirits.
Yeah.
So, I guess the conscious decision to make a change in my life and start doing what I really, really wanted to do, like making a podcast and stuff like that, and just getting myself motivated to do something again. That was what, I mean, it was like me making the first choice of actually,
Right. It doesn't seem right that you didn't make that decision. It seems like so. Let's say that when you first said, "Hey George, I would like you to be on this new show with me." What does it matter that 7 seconds prior, before you said it, the idea started going down the hose per se? I mean, someone the brain turned on the spigot, and it took 7 seconds to get to the mouth, and then you said it. I don't see how that takes away responsibility or takes away from you making that decision.
No, it still, even though, I mean, it's kind of like, that feeling of already having the question ready, and then all that's left is just consciously making the choice: am I going to ask this question or am I not? It's the same as if you see somebody who needs help on the street, and you already have this option in your head about, should I help this person? Should I offer my help or not? Like both possibilities exist, and I think it's the conscious driver who actually makes the choice after this potential choice has been formed by your perception. Does that make sense?
Why don't we go ahead and play clip 2, because I think that drives right into what we're talking about.
Yes, let's play clip number 2. In fact, if anybody wants to show me on my screen where clip number 2 is.
And also, the link to this full video will be in the YouTube in our YouTube description on the YouTube channel. And I think
for now, that's where the show notes will be.
Right. And
until
Mark
our
also,
website is.
Mark can also tell you who this actually is.
Indeed.
If we truly are subject to these unconscious pre-decisions, can we be held morally responsible for our actions? One prime example of this dilemma can be found in the case of Charles Whitman, a sniper who killed 16 people and wounded 31 others from the top of a tower at the University of Texas in Austin. Whitman left a note saying he didn't understand why he was committing these horrible crimes, and to perform an autopsy to figure out what was wrong with him after he died.
What? Yeah. So he committed crimes. He didn't know why he was doing them, but he still committed them.
And the way I think about it is,
weird.
he had to pull the trigger 16 times. He had 16 chances to not do it.
That's weird.
It seems like, I think it's a really slippery slope if we start saying that we're not, just because.
But maybe it's the same as having tics. People are aware of having tics, but they're just not able to. I mean, it's basically, if I bring this to a very fundamental level, it's like blinking your eyes. You can really try to hold your eyes open, but at some point you have to blink.
Sure, but blinking your eyes is not the same as pulling the trigger on a gun and killing 16 people, purchasing the gun many days prior, planning how you're going to get up to the top of the tower or wherever he was when he shot. I feel like there definitely has to be some responsibility.
Structure. There's some kind of structure. Yeah, that's true.
And I understand that the way the world works, and I think this is where we always get tripped up, is there's always outliers. So, for example, you could say, if you smoke cigarettes every day, you're going to get cancer. But then there's going to be that one guy that smokes 3 packs a day and lives till he's 152, and then he becomes the proof why you should smoke because it helps you. But there
are many people who think right now, my grandfather, including me.
Many people were thinking that. I'm almost certain many people right now were thinking about your grandfather. Absolutely.
Yeah. Great guy.
So my point being that, I think we can't make rules for outliers. You can, but you have to have a very specific. This leads to clip 3. Go ahead and play clip 3 first.
Sure enough, the autopsy revealed a tumor that many suspected to have pressed against the portion of his brain that controlled his emotions and led to his violent actions. In this case, Whitman was not forced by any other person to commit violent crimes, but neither was he truly acting of his own unimpaired volition. He could not will what he willed.
So that
he had a tumor?
Yeah, so if he has a tumor, I feel like I've seen this in a Star Trek episode. Also, this type of thing where you know what? It was a Dr. House MD episode.
Of course,
where the man was not responsible for his actions. Fun. Now, this is a great example of an outlier case. If you, but it sets a dangerous precedent.
It's so strange, though. He still has this whole structure, and then so there's like a growth of a tumor that overrides his free will, but it still connects to this structure of knowing that it's possible to buy a gun, and that it's possible to put bullets into the gun, and that the gun isn't used to shoot at pieces of paper or tin cans, but that it's used to murder other people.
Yeah, there's a lot of premeditation in his action. Now, I would say, though, that because these cases exist, we do have to have a system set up where people that are in the medical know and can perform these tests can it can't just be, I didn't have control. It has to be in the court of law, which is where these things will be meted out. You have to say, we ran them through tests, we did MRIs, and it is true. This is a factor. And then, of course, the jury and the judge can make that determination. And it does mean, unfortunately, that there will be people that get off or people that don't get off when they should have gotten off.
Reminds me of that other story. Was some story about a guy who left his house, did all kinds of similar things, then committed like murders, then went to bed, went back to his house, went to bed, woke up, and didn't remember any of it. And they say, or he says, or his lawyers, I don't know, say it all happened in his sleep. So his consciousness wasn't there. It was a process that happened while he was asleep, which is also strange, right? So,
and he might not.
That's also the fundamental thing is: was there free will, or was there?
Okay. Well, hang on now. Yes, let's say that he didn't have free will. There's still a consequence for the action, because let's take a lion or a dog or some sort of wild animal that bites people. We put those down. We put those type of animals down.
Of course,
why?
They're still a risk to society.
Because they're a risk to society. So you could say this guy didn't have free will. He didn't have intention. But does that mean that we let him be free?
To society.
He's a risk to society, and he needs to be put somewhere to protect until we can determine that he is not.
Part of it is also retribution. Part of the justice system is also retribution. And if somebody really, even though, let's say that they were not in control. So let's, for the sake of, words, say, his body committed those crimes, then should there be punishment, or should there be, should he be confronted with the damage that he has committed to society, or should there just be a prevention from, should we just lock him up because his body is doing stuff that he's not in control of, or should he also be feel the punishment or something?
Well, I think this gets to a deeper issue, whereas there is the law of chance where things can happen, and there is no guarantee that everyone's life will be equal. You know, there are people that are born without legs, and they are not going to be able to walk. They're not going to have the mobility that someone with legs will have. There are people that are born with a higher IQ, and there are people that are born with Down syndrome or some other thing that prevents them from reaching the full capacity of what we consider a full capacity of a human. But what can you do about that? That is unfortunate. And a man or a woman that has an unconscious action that kills people, they got dealt a raw hand, and unfortunately, life is not fair. You cannot guarantee equality of outcome.
Man, imagine that. Oh, sorry, George. I have to stop tape here for a second because my Winamp crashed.
Okay.
So it stopped streaming to the No Agenda stream.
Well, luckily, we're still streaming to YouTube.
Reconnect here with my main mix.
When did that crash?
Connect. Just now.
All right.
Just now. I get a please report the error to.
Let me know when
I mean,
we're
I'm
back
using
on...
Winamp. Maybe I should use something else.
You
but
probably shouldn't use something from
we
1994, you know?
Yeah, I know.
Pre-internet.
Winamp.
It's certainly not kicking the llama's ass right now.
No, I think the llama's already dead from all of that
kicked it
kicking.
way too many times. Let me know when we're back on stream.
We are back on the stream. Let me just update the metadata here and click it to the lock, and there we should. Okay.
For those of you that are watching on YouTube, we didn't crash on YouTube. We crashed on the audio stream over at No Agenda.
Yeah. Maybe I need to figure out a different software. But anyway, where were we, George?
I think we were talking about Winamp's free will to crash on us.
Yeah, that wasn't free will.
Well, that brings up. Why don't we play clip 4 just to get us back into the feeling of this? Go ahead.
Most compatibilists suggest that we should be able to take credit for our good actions and blame for our bad ones.
Right.
As long as a person is free from outside coercion, they have freedom of action, the highest degree of free will conceivable under compatibilism. Whether we're aware of it or not, we are all subject to these unconscious drivers silently guiding us to take the path we choose. If you wake up and decide you're going to have ice cream for breakfast, that idea didn't just come out of nowhere. Your brain had made that decision long before you were aware of it. So, what do we do? If we're all just biological robots driven by unknown causes, what does that mean for humanity?
Stop it here.
Well, we're not biological robots, but we are confronted with automatic processes.
I take complete umbrage. Is that the right word? I don't like what was said about it happened in the brain long before you wanted to do ice cream. While that might be the case, that is still your choice. A choice is not one.
I think
instant.
what the thing that happens in the brain is the formulation of the choice, but the person who actually makes the choice. I mean, it's different. I mean, there's also the kind of free will that somebody holds a gun to my head.
Well,
and tells me.
I'd like to keep it mundane just for a second, but ice cream. You get a craving. You want to eat ice cream. Mm-hmm. Now,
sometimes
how
that
many
doesn't
other
feel like
how many other choices have to happen for you to get the ice cream into your mouth? How much amount do you put in the bowl? When
Well, yeah, no. I sometimes I catch myself when I already made a choice to do something and fall. I mean, like smoking. Smoking is a great example. It's a habit. Which, as soon as you realize you're doing it, it's no longer a habit. It's a choice. You can always say, "Okay, I won't smoke." And I changed how I did that because I decided to stop smoking. So every time now, the impulse is still there. Like, "Hey, get a smoke. Hey, get a smoke. Hey, get a smoke." And I'm the one who says, yes, I will, listen to this. But as soon as I make that choice, I still have to find, like my cigarettes, I have to find a lighter, put on my shoes, go outside, put on my coat, especially in the current weather, because it's freezing and beautiful, snowy white outside. There are so many things, but the choice of wanting to have a smoke is already there, and the rest of it feels kind of like, no, don't do it. But also a form of guilt.
I feel that we're missing one really key important concept that's happening with smoking and ice cream, and that is addiction. So they've shown that sugar is.
But ice cream can also be, an addiction.
Well, sugar is 8 times more addictive than cocaine. I might be quoting the numbers wrong, but it is more addictive than cocaine, which is traditionally
I should
something.
change what I do in my coffee. Huh?
So I know for sure I'm addicted to sugar, and I do eat a lot of sugar. I do eat a lot of ice cream when I know I shouldn't, and I make that choice. But I guess my choice to eat the ice cream is stronger than my choice not to. But I think that's an interesting point. I think it's an interesting point to think.
I don't know. You something inside yourself already made the choice, and we are just our behavior is. It feels like to me like being a slave to that choice.
But I in the past have done, I guess what you would call a detox, where I only eat chicken breast for 2 weeks. And I never once deviated from that. As much as I had the thought to eat ice cream, I did not.
So first you created this model, and one of the things inside of that model was also, I know that when I'm going to start doing this, I will get cravings and everything. But here's how I deal with that. I just have to ignore it, or I have to replace it with something else. I mean, this is the same thing as me smoking. I replaced my my actual smoking habit with those nicotine tabs. They're kind of like nicotine gum, but I really don't like gum. So something else.
Yeah, you weaned yourself off.
Yeah, and I knew that I would get impulses at strange moments, like I'm walking down the stairs and the first thing I feel is, hey, get a cigarette. I'm getting into my car, and the first thing I think is, wouldn't it be nice to open the window and just light one? I mean, I don't have to smoke it all. I can just take 1 or 2 hits and throw the rest away. And there also I actually listened to that craving. I thought, well, okay, one more, and it actually worked for me. I was like, okay, maybe this is a part of also letting myself know what I am saying no to. So I took 2 hits, and it really it made me lightheaded, and I thought, this, actually, if I look at it, it doesn't feel so nice. And I changed like the context of the framework, how I viewed it. I changed my opinion about the same thing, and that changed my emotional response, and that changed my behavior, I guess.
But let me ask you the big question that I think is on everyone's mind.
The big question.
Do you need a smoke right now?
I do not, but I have nicotine tabs lying here, and they are smiling at me, and I'm just talking so much that I'm talking the craving away.
Is that what you're doing? Is that how you got rid of it? You just kept your mouth busy by talking?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, so I think for me this debate on free will is a little bit troubling because there are people that want to rape other people. There are people that want to murder and they get pleasure out of that, but they don't do it. So I think if you have a person that does those things, for example, the man that killed 16 people with the tumor in his brain, I get that. I understand that. That might be one of the outliers. But someone else could say, I heard voices in my head or whatever, and get out of
look for help, talk with someone.
Well, what I'm saying is they can get, this is kind of a surfing to a separate topic, but on reddit.com, I went into some very weird subtopic. I don't know how I surfed there. I promise you I wasn't there on purpose, but I went in. it was the pedophile subreddit. And I went in thinking a whole different thing, and then I started reading what people were saying, and I really started to feel so bad for them because they say they have these desires to have sexual relationships with children, and they cannot stop those thoughts from coming. But the whole subreddit was not about, anything except for how do we keep these thoughts away. And I thought about, well, how is that any different from someone who's gay or lesbian? Now, in society, it is absolutely unacceptable to be a pedophile. But we have come to terms with gay and lesbian and even transgender. And I think it's really fascinating that that's really the same thing. I always feel like we're born with a dial in our mind, a dial for each one of the parts of our brain, and the dial for sexuality, for example, goes from 0 to 1,000.
So just to get this straight, you're talking about the cravings. Because some
right, these are people that
something we can never ever allow,
Absolutely, and that's what the subreddit was about. People with these cravings and how hard it is for them in society. You're right. There is never, ever, ever a time that you can allow this to happen, and the main reason is because children are not yet formed enough to make those kind of decisions. Okay.
Yeah.
The reason why,
of course,
the reason why gay or lesbian is fine because those are two adults making decisions.
Adults,
right?
Exactly.
Whereas children can be molded and manipulated and tricked into doing things that they don't.
And at the same time, we cannot deny that there are people who have these cravings, and if I understand you correctly, the subreddit is essentially where people who
like a support
have those.
Group.
I mean, yeah, like a support group. So
let me jump it just a little bit differently because I think when we talk about pedophiles, it's definitely a much more charged topic. Talking about that dial, the 1 to 1,000 dial on how we're created as human beings, there are people sexually turned on by buildings, and this is a whole documentary, I believe it was out of England that I watched, where physically attracted to buildings, and one lady legally married, I believe she married a Ferris wheel, and they have her visiting and staying all day.
Check out the curves on that one.
She has her hand. She's digging her hand up into the Ferris wheel and feeling.
Well, I know
gears.
there is a psychological, or I don't know, psychiatric a condition where people are attracted to physical objects. I mean,
is that if that is a psychiatric, if it's a condition that buildings turn you on, and we're going to label it as
essentially, I mean, it's
if we're going to label it as a mental disease, then we have to go back to labeling gay or lesbian.
Well,
as a
not really.
Disease.
No,
it used to
not
be
really
labeled,
in that sense.
But it used
I
to
think
be.
it's
How
more
is that
about
different?
does it hinder you? Does it hinder you? I mean, that's essentially how psychiatry works. It's not how do we label things that are a disease. I mean, it's more like, what is a disease? Well, that's any condition that hinders you of leading your daily life. And I could assume that not being able to walk the streets because you see so many attractive buildings is kind of a hindrance to your daily life.
I don't think you've been with me when I'm in Japan and every single girl I'm attracted to, it hinders my life. I'm pretty sure I have a sickness. I believe it's called yellow fever.
Oh, well, could be worse.
All right. Well, that turned into a definitely heavy topic.
Anyway,
how about we segue?
Yeah.
Can we segue? I have a segue, and I don't know what your topic is, but I want to segue, if possible, to this one.
Topic is so different from
this.
Is
it? Well, here, so I'll make a segue. We're going to just immediately jump off of the pedophile, building, love, free will topic change.
Segue.
I saw this article this morning, and I read the entire article, and I thought I could pull something out of it interesting, and it looked interesting. The title was like, oh, interesting. And it led me to a whole different thing. It was, you have been storing peanut butter wrong the entire time.
No way. Have we?
And that's what you think, right? You're like, oh my God, I have been doing it wrong. And then they say,
open my eyes.
At first I'm thinking, are they saying refrigerator versus not refrigerator? Because I already knew you don't refrigerate
That's the
peanut
first thing
butter.
I thought. Yes.
But that's not what it is.
Which makes sense.
They say, they show you
it gets too hard, to put on
exactly.
the bread.
What's the other problem with peanut butter, though?
The oil. Well, the oil might separate from the
oil.
Yes.
So they're telling me that I'm doing it wrong, but when I read the article, I find out I'm doing it right. I've always stored my peanut butter and almond butter upside down, and that's what the entire article's about. Because then when you go to use it,
how do you open it?
You flip it open. You flip it over before you open it, of course, Mark. But you store it upside down so that the oils are on the bottom when you flip it, and then you solve two problems at once. But that's not what gets my...
Oh, my God.
That's not what grinds my gears. What grinds my gears is that these articles that say you've been doing it wrong. And I think it should be you might have been doing it wrong, or many people are doing it wrong. I think it's so pretentious.
Have you seen? Yeah, have you seen the one about the can opener?
I have been holding, and I'll tell you. Why don't you explain to everybody about the can opener, because I tried it the other way and it doesn't work as well.
Oh, well, I tried it too. For me, it worked fine. So, I mean, everybody knows how we use a can opener to open a can, but if you flip the can opener so that you make the
horizontal, you make it horizontal.
Yeah, exactly. So that the cut also goes on the side of the can instead of on top of the can. Then, as soon as you went all the, made the circle, then you can just lift the can opener together with the lid. Top part,
because that's what that lip is for, correct? The lip on the can opener, which I always thought was to help guide it around the can, is designed.
But I've tried this a couple of times, and the can the lid, it gets jammed inside of my can opener.
Well, there's a new problem, and that's that the majority of cans nowadays are self-opening, so they have a deeper indent inside the can.
That's true.
And I know this because the other day I was opening up some chili beef soup, and the tab broke off as I was opening it. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So I was forced to use a can opener, and that's when I was like, let me try this other way. I finally have a moment. But because it's too deep, both ways were too hard because the wheel's not big enough.
I think that's also what happened with me. Yeah, the thing broke off, and then I thought, okay, this is the opportunity to try it. Because when do you ever use a can opener?
You don't.
Days?
You just don't.
Oh, my God. That's so interesting. Hey, George, have you ever heard about Davos?
Davos, is that I think I have. Are we getting ready to get really in a really heavy topic? I feel like Davos is a country or a location.
Heavy, but it's a nice topic. Yes, it is in Switzerland. And every year in January, the World Economic Forum meets, has a meeting there. And, well, I mean, I can tell you what it is, but let's have the BBC. I invited the BBC. No, I actually didn't. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say stuff like that. But anyway,
all right.
I mean, show number 3, they probably won't mind that much.
It's a gathering of the global elite in the Swiss alpine resort of Davos, encouraging globalization, trade, and integration. 3,000 delegates are going from more than 100 countries, including leaders from politics, business, and even royalty.
3,000 people, like bigwigs and stuff, are meeting there.
Right.
Every year.
Are you jealous?
Should I be? Jealousy is not really. I don't know. No, I'm not sure. I don't think so. Would I want to go there? Probably not.
It seems to me that you're upset.
You know who goes there, for example? Okay, I didn't plan to play this one, but okay, this guy.
I just wanted for people to know that as an activist years ago, I thought of the IMF as a great Satan, and I'm not joking about that. I really did, and because there's sort of structural adjustment and the sort of bullying of junior economies was prevalent. I remember going to meet, who was your former, the French Camdessus, and I remember going to see him, and I was expecting Satan to welcome me, and this very sweet Frenchman with like Buddhist beads was, hello, can I help you? And I said, well, not me, but there's lots to do. And you really, I just want to say, we in the development community, we really value your tough-mindedness and all of that. It's really good. And as I said, I'm we'll still be on your case, but just want to say that.
I'm like, what?
I don't even know what this guy's talking about.
Okay, did you recognize the voice?
Oh, I supposed to recognize the voice?
Yeah, well, maybe.
This guy,
Maybe,
though,
I mean...
I don't mind the stuttering because I understand that, but this guy, I don't know what he's even saying.
Yeah, I know, right? Okay, so this is U2's lead singer, Bono. You know?
What?
Yeah.
Why is
He's
Bono
also
involved?
Exactly. Well, he's also apparently big in charity, and
Okay.
he has his own charity fund called One. So good old Bono is not just U2 singer, but he's also at Davos, and he didn't go there to sing. And, you know, in general, it seems that many people don't really like Bono because of how he portrays himself as kind of like a messiah. And I kind of agree with them, although... To be honest, I don't really know that much about Bono, so I don't know if I should question his motives. I just know he's big on charity, and he's always busy meeting high-level people. You can probably not find an influential people who he has not met. So it's not strange that this raises some questions with people about who this man really is. On the other hand, it's also not strange that people who have influence or who got influence because they are famous might have something like, hey, now that I am in this position, I can really change the world for the better. So, like I said, it's you know, I don't know if I can question his motives, but I want to play the same thing again, just a highlight of it, because I found this comment really strange.
In the development community, we really value your tough-mindedness and all of that.
In the developmental community, we really value your open-mindedness. The developmental community, that sounds strange to me. It sounds like there's this whole community that most people don't even know about, and apparently Bono's, you know, a really big important person there. So important that he can tell Christine Lagarde, who he was talking with,
who's
who is the head
Lagarde?
of the... Yeah, she's the head of the International Monetary Fund. That's like the... like he said in the first clip I played, that's the organization that he used to consider as the big Satan because they bully small governments and stuff like that. So he's apparently he's big enough to say kind of, you know, rude things to a person like Christine Lagarde, but he met with Barack Obama in 2010, and he met with Mike Pence in February 2017, and in September of 2018 he met with Pope Francis, where he signed some kind of agreement with his charity One and an educational charity of the Vatican. So I mean, taking care of the business, even with the Pope that just says that, you know, Bono's everywhere, and whenever there's a globalist cause to take care of, particularly when it pertains to Africa, Bono's there to be found. And he's also amicably close to people like globalist, capitalist investor and activist George Soros. Maybe you've heard of that guy.
Hang on, can I interject something here?
Yes, please.
So I think I see, you know, what you're trying to say is that who is this global cabal of people that control the world through the through the IMF? And I would say there's a book that I read. I think it's called The Short History of Everything or something like that. Mm-hmm. And one of the key facts that came out of that book was that some of the most stable points in history are when we were under a dictatorship type of government, right? And
well, hold that thought, and we'll work towards expanding on it. Right. I would like to before I get more into this. So I was talking about George Soros, and that's you know, a very rich investor, and he got really wealthy because he hedged a bet against the Bank of England. So when something happened with a British pound, he suddenly became very, very rich. And in the past, he also said that if he could choose to become anyone, his own choice, then he would choose to become God himself. Now, Soros is a very interesting topic to talk about, and I would like to bring him up in some future episode of the Mark and George show. But I just now let's go back a bit and
All right.
I started with what is Davos and who is at Davos, and I have a clip here from the National saying a little bit about the origins of Davos and what Davos exactly is.
Davos is the brainchild of this man, Klaus Schwab. The German engineer and businessman started Davos in 1971. At the time, it was called the European Management Symposium. The idea was to bring together Europe's business elite so they could look for ways to catch up to their American counterparts. By the mid-70s, it started to attract political leaders, and its mission morphed into one of global ambition, to change the world for the better. In 1987, it officially became the World Economic Forum.
So it's a European Management Symposium. That's how it started. And at first, only business leaders, but later it also started to attract political leaders and, the elite. And they all come there and to talk. And it's a very hierarchical organization. People get color-coded cards, which determine which meetings they can and cannot attend, all that stuff. And that's very interesting. And I would also like to give you one example, because I just played Bono, who is not really, making a coherent point in what he was saying. But I also have to say it was the last part of a talk. So I don't know the other things that they talked about. It was just the final words before they went to answer questions of the audience. The audience, by the way, also is from a selection of people. So it's not like you can just attend there if you don't have affiliation with anything. But I wanted to focus on another famous person who went to Davos. All right,
let's do it.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I see a wonderful crowd here.
Oh, and I have to say, by the way, this is a journalist from NBC. The media this year, when covering Davos, they have really changed how they cover it. Especially stuff like Reuters and The Sun for the UK and NBC for the US, they are all in on the globalist topics. By the way, the topic for this year, the subject for this year's meeting is Globalism 4.0. So it's not, it's surprising that they are talking about a lot of globalist subjects. And the word globalism kind of makes me a little bit, shaky. Like, is this something we want? I'm a conservative person. So, yeah, when you say globalism, that kind of makes me nervous. But just to make my original point, this is a journalist from NBC. That means that she is not like a hired presenter at Davos, but she's still in her journalism mindset, which is really easy to hear because her tone is, she talks like the people at our son's kindergarten speak to my child. So that's something extra. But also listen to the guests they have. It's really interesting. And I've got 3 clips total. This is the first.
Here, and I'm delighted to introduce to you my guests, Matt Damon, the award-winning actor, co-founder of Water.org, and Gary White, his partner. Please welcome them.
I'm not sure why that's funny.
Please clap.
All right.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Well, Matt and Gary, welcome. Thank you so much for talking to me here this morning
Great to be
on
here.
CNBC. It's great to see you guys. Now, I first saw you here in 2014. And you've been back again. You were back again in 2017, I believe. What is it about Davos and the World Economic Forum that attracts you to come here?
Well, it's a great place to spread awareness about the work we're doing. And obviously, there's a huge collection of very powerful, well-connected people here. So they're good people to talk to about the work we're doing, just so we can scale faster.
just so we can scale faster. And that's why we're talking at Davos with all of the influential people. So that's very interesting. He flat out admits it.
You let me
All
know
right.
when I can unleash my notes.
At any point.
Because I'm not
yes.
sure if the other clips are going to revolve.
If that happens, I will just play the clip.
All right, so let's talk about this. So basically, we have an organization that is trying to globalize the world, as you said, globalism 4.0. Let me ask you.
Connect people.
Right.
With this theme this year. Yes.
So without answering, I'm going to ask some rhetorical questions, and I'm going to give some notes on this that I took. Because I think I come at it from a slightly different viewpoint. Number one, why not? I have done interpreting work for a lot of large organizations. I've been to Bluetooth. The Bluetooth spec was created by a small subset of corporations. And because they created this spec, my Bluetooth headphones will work with any Bluetooth insignia device. I worked with the infrared.
Still like crap, but yes.
It actually does not sound like crap.
I said it still works crappy, Bluetooth.
I
yes.
100% disagree. Bluetooth is fantastic. And I come at it from when I went to the Bluetooth SIG in Nice. I flew to Nice. And they had the Bluetooth working group, and I listened to the very first headset, the very first prototype headset with Bluetooth. It was very poor quality, and I remember thinking this will never happen, but it happened because a cabal, which is a name that you give to someone that it's a very bad. It's a term that brings up negativity, and it guides the listener to say this is a bad thing. It's like me saying this creep that I know, Mark, and immediately I've labeled you as a creep. Whereas the cabal, which is no one in that group thinks they're a cabal. They think they're a group trying to build the world. I have a few more notes.
Influential people.
Credit cards work all over this world because we have standards that make
in
those
the banking
work.
system.
We can fly an airplane from America to Japan to China, and we know that the fuel that we get on that airplane is not going to let the airplane crash. Somewhere there was a cabal that created standards, and they locked out other people. So what I'm saying is, one, who else should do it if not people that are connected and have money? Should we have people in this cabal that work at a convenience store and have no clue what's going on, no stake in the pie? Granted, it means that you could get people shifting a standard to their direction, but in the scope of the world, does that affect you or me? No. It means that when I turn on electricity in one country or another country, my items, I'm not going to fry myself or kill myself because we have standards. And I think that's why these type of places exist. Globalism, where maybe you have a clip that tells me the downside of globalism, because right now I'm not seeing the downside of it.
There we go. So actually, no, I don't. And the questions you are asking are exactly the questions I was hoping you would ask, because I ask myself the same questions. And for this show, I've been thinking about it last week, and I thought, well, what is it that I want to do with our show? Do I want to inform people? Do I want to tell people my truth? Or do I want to raise questions that are important without really having any predetermined outcome? And I am more attracted to the second one, because now that we are able to connect with each other globally, that means that's also a form of globalization, the internet, and it's a form of globalization that we welcome. But I also think this is one that we welcome because we kind of feel that we are also in control. We are not just being, at the behest of the great powers that be. On the other hand, people call a cabal because they feel that the cabal is invisible, and that, that's so the big invisible, unreachable, I guess, power structure, which feels if they are unreachable to us, if we cannot influence them, then that is a reason to get nervous, because that means that they are the sheep herders and we're the sheep. But we want to be in control, and certainly we do not want to be regarded as sheep. I guess that is, in my opinion, that's mostly how, especially journalists, are talking to us. Even that lady, how the way she was been talking to the audience, it sounded to me like she has a childish tone of voice, and that's why I don't like how she talks, because I feel that she is trying to, it's finally time when the small people may talk with the big important people, yada yada. So I'd like to, I've got 2 more clips in this one, and I wanted to let you hear exactly what it is that Matt Damon wants to talk about, because so far we've just hear him say, we know who Matt Damon is. He's a very known actor. But here he's at Davos and he wants to do something, and we know that he wants to get into touch with people of power. We don't know anything beyond that, so let's see what he has to say.
Let's do it.
Press the right button.
What's different about us, which we've talked about over the years, is the model that we use is not a direct impact model, which is what most water foundations do. Is they'll raise money to drill wells. And
okay, so he has a water foundation, and he is also trying to help bring water to the areas, especially in Africa, that need it. But their model is different, and he will explain why. I had to tell you that ahead of time, so let me just play the whole thing again.
What's different about us, which we've talked about over the years, is the model that we use is not a direct impact model, which is what most water foundations do. Is they'll raise money to drill wells, and we have a microfinance model that Gary pioneered. When around the time we partnered, it was being piloted, and it's just a wonderful idea. Gary basically took the concepts that Muhammad Yunus pioneered around microfinance and applied them to water. And so our model is about making small loans, 90% of which go to women in the developing world.
Okay, so they're trying to make it more easy via micro loans and micro payments to, help people get water, which sounds nice. Got a little bit more, and that's a final clip I have on this.
And the great thing about, this hypothesis that Gary had that's now been borne out, we've given over 3 million loans at this point, and they pay back at 99%. So it's a really impressive model, and it's a real success story, and it's about, the message that we bring and that we've proven is that the poorest people on the planet want to participate in solving their own problems. And if you just nudge the markets a little bit towards them, then they'll participate in their own solution. And that's been
and I think that what we see and the insight that we've gained is that poor people around the world are already paying huge amounts of money for water through these water vendors, or sometimes they're paying in terms of their time to walk and collect water. The woman I met outside the city of Manila in the slums there, Leonardiza, I was talking with her recently, and she was paying $60 every month to these water vendors who would sell this not even safe water, from tanker trucks. And so what she did, she took out a loan with one of our local partners so she could pay the connection fee. She could afford a couple of dollars a day, but she couldn't afford $300 to connect. And so she took out that loan, and now her loan payments and her water tariff combined are $10 a month. So you can see right there the power of this. When we see the poor not as a problem to be solved through charity, but as a market to be served.
Right, they turn into customers, right, and then they gain agency, and so that's a real kind of game changer.
I thought it was beautiful. When I heard this, I thought, my opinion switched a little from here are all the elites deciding what has to happen to here is a noble idea that helps people get water for affordable prices and helps. Well, like I said in the final bit here.
And her water tariff combined are $10 a month. So you can see right there the power of this. When we see the poor not as a problem to be solved through charity, but as a market to be served.
See, so they changed the whole way of viewing people, not longer as victims, but as people who you can help get control over their own lives. So, by the way, do you know what the first question was that the journalist asked?
Absolutely, I do not.
It was, but isn't there a water crisis? Boom! Immediately back to the terror, the threat, the bad thing. Not focusing on anything that these two guys told us, but just focusing right back on the talking points that the media loves, and the installation of fear. So I stopped listening there because I was annoyed. I was about to switch off the stream, and I thought, well, this is
it didn't
very
go
nice
the way
thing to
that
clip.
It didn't go the way I was writing notes, assuming you were taking this a different direction. So I'm sort of. I guess delightfully surprised that you didn't go that direction. So I want to.
You thought I was going to hate on the globalists
because the word cabal was used, which set it up for me to believe that you had a negative thought on it.
I know, right? And that's something that the media does. I mean, it was a clip. It wasn't something I said. It was where the world's elite will meet to talk about. They make it so big and they make it so unreachable. And I think that this is also, it's a proof that basically, the mainstream media, they don't know how to get out of their way of thinking. So yeah, that's true. But
they're preaching to people that are not part of the elite. So a couple of notes that I have. Number one, the most recent one I wrote is, just because you're elite doesn't mean you're evil. It just means you have accomplished something big, and that made you elite because you're a rare man that has a woman that has money.
Elon Musk is a nice example. Most people don't view him as an evil,
well, that's to be
child eating.
We'll find out, won't we? But for, I would say, let's talk about why people can make arguments that this type of control with a tight, group of a relatively small group, could control the world. I would say it makes sense. If you have too many people, too many cooks in the kitchen, you're not going to have a solution that makes sense. You're just going to be bickering all day long. And the minute that you start opening up these discussions, you have the ability for outside influence to manipulate it. And look what happened. Not to get political, I know we're supposed to be okay with that now, but look at what might have happened with our elections, that we got manipulated by outside influence, and look at how much that's caused so much division in this country. I think there's a lot of conspiracy theories with these with the IMF and what they do. There's always protests at every IMF meeting. And I think if you actually walked around and asked people in that group what they know about the IMF and what they propose to do instead of the IMF, they have no answers.
They don't know.
Because the IMF,
exactly.
If we don't have a group, and it's not just the IMF, by the way, there are tons of groups. There are hundreds of thousands of people in a variety of groups. Like I said, stuff like Bluetooth, even USB. USB is a spec that everyone had to agree on, or else it wouldn't work. The interoperability, the success of this planet is determined by a small group of people who technically know what's happening and can make it work. Making money is not evil. I think another factor is you hear about people shaming people. People shaming people that head organizations that are, charity organizations. They shame them into, why are you making money off of people suffering? Well, you know what? If you want to get talent and people that know what they're doing to head organizations that do well, they deserve to get paid for their time. And that same person who could make multi-millions of dollars heading a for-profit company needs to be incentivized might need to be incentivized because the allure of working for a private company is so huge. And I don't think it's evil, and I think we could have regulations and rules about how much they can take. They obviously can't take all of the money and run away, but it's not inherently evil to do something good and get paid for it. Doctors do it all the time.
Of course, and that's not where the shoe rings for me. What I have my own doubts with is that it's not just a meeting of business people, but it's also where politicians meet. For example, our prime minister went there with a delegation, and also our queen went there, and our queen was the representative of the United Nations. And that's kind of where it becomes a little bit weird for me, because the question it raises with me is how much is being discussed there that is being, kind of molded and just agreed on, and how much does that how much room does that leave for democracy if there is such a big entanglement between the political world and the business world and royalty and science? And I don't know if judges come there as well. Maybe. I mean, 8,000 people are a lot of people. Famous people come there because they also have a charity, like the example of Bono and Matt Damon. So, that's where it kind of becomes a little bit difficult for me. Like you said, the most efficient form of government is usually a dictatorship, especially if you look at the.
I didn't say dictatorships were efficient. What I said, I'm not exactly sure which book that I got this information from. It's either a book called *Sapiens: A Brief History of the World*, I believe, is the full title, and then another book by Bill Bryson called *A Short History of Nearly Everything*. And in those books, they talk about that the stablest periods in history were done under a dictatorship.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Now, stable. Yes. I agree. Yes.
I want to address your point that maybe this group, and the way that, by the way, I did not know there was a queen of the Netherlands. So I'm actually
yes, we are really the royal kingdom of the Netherlands.
Yeah, I find
that means we've got the whole.
I thought you were just being poetic with the word kingdom there, but I guess it's not. So
nope. That's our official name, is the royal kingdom.
I would say this. So
yes.
Let's look at, for example, Trump, and Trump, who I've hated and liked, and I think has a great sense of humor. I think he's a funny guy. I think he's also uneducated in some things, and I think other things that he's doing have randomly turned out good, and some things have turned out good. I think it's a good shakeup, but it doesn't matter what I think, and it doesn't matter if I liked or disliked Obama, because that one man was elected by our group. So if
is likability important?
Here's the thing: it doesn't matter, because in a world of 7 billion people, the best way is to you elect a representative, and that representative, regardless of if you agree with them, they are our representative. So if you have your prime minister, who I assume is elected and not appointed by the Queen, if there is true democracy in the Netherlands, where you're voting, we could make arguments that the Electoral College in America gives more vote weight to people in the country, or whatever. You could those arguments aside, we did elect them, and they are working together as our representative. If we don't like what they're doing, we vote them out the next office, and change happens. Trump is an exact example of change happening. We went. I know you're not American, but we went from Obama to Trump. That shows that we have the ability to choose our electorate, to choose not our electorate.
Yes, that really gave me hope, because I kind of felt like it was a done deal, and I wasn't the only one, because most people thought it was a done deal. Hillary would win, etc., etc.
The media's
kind of felt like, is there really democracy? No, I don't think there is, because it's going to be 8 years of Obama, and he and Hillary got tighter during those 8 years, so probably Hillary's going to become the next one, etc., etc., etc. But then, lo and behold, Donald Trump won, and that, it gave me so much hope for.
Come on, even Donald Trump was surprised he won. He was completely not ready to win. Are you kidding me? He was not ready for that. I mean, in the end, the results speak for everything. Globalism has not been bad. It has been bad in some areas. Some countries have been screwed over by the IMF. Even Korea, there was in the 80s, they were completely. South Korea was. I don't know all the details, but I do know that the whole the loans that were sent to their country and whatnot did affect them because there was influence on their. In other words, you end up not being able to effectively govern locally because of the amount of debt in your country and whatnot. So
Right.
I'm not gonna.
Of course.
I don't
Yeah.
claim to understand the whole system, but for us everyday people, would you not admit we are living in the most amazing time in the history
that's
of the
for
human
sure.
race? The
That's
fact
for
that
sure.
you in the Netherlands and me in Las Vegas in a desert that can't even survive without technology, without air conditioning and water purification,
Blows
and
my
you in the
mind.
Netherlands, we are talking and streaming to people all over the world.
Yeah.
Tell
On
me that-
multiple
and no
platforms.
one is stopping
It's
us.
fantastic.
We can say whatever we want about the people in
Yes.
charge, and no one will stop
Yes.
us in our countries. Fantastic.
Yeah, that it is fantastic and amazing. So this also proves that you and I, as individuals, we transcend borders because of our interests, and we've got. I mean, both have broadcasting as a hobby, of course. You even make your living of it partially. So this is a mini form of globalization. There are two people who just are on different side of the border, connecting their systems, transcending traditional, frontiers, borders.
Well, I'll say this: like, I am a complete. My entire life revolves around globalism. My books are printed through through Amazon's printing house and also another large printing house, Ingram, through Lightning Source, and those books are distributed through a system that I don't even touch. I just at the end of the month receive money. I don't have to stock books. I don't have to worry about print runs. None of that.
Right.
And
So-
without that, this podcast wouldn't even be possible because I'd be too busy running my business.
Right. So this is basically globalization in what we call the free world. We've got many tools to our disposal to reach a lot of people. But then there's also, of course, the Chinese form of, globalization, which means the social net. Is that what it's called? The system with points and the AI scanning everybody's face in real time and determining if somebody is, walking through a red light or something, and they get
They just
points
announced this
decreased
new
and-
app that will let you know within 500 meters if someone around you is in debt, and you can then report if they are in debt. Because you can report not that they're in debt because they already know that they're in debt, but if they're spending money beyond their means, you can report them. I absolutely
Hey,
do
that
not-
guy bought a chocolate bar.
right, and he should be buying a fruit. I mean, who's going to stand in judgment of that? I
Isn't
think,
that weird?
Well, I think you know me. I'm a linguist and fluent in Japanese and Korean now, and I had started down this Chinese path, and I love the Chinese language, but I got to tell you, the moves that China has made, and the even now or from before, it doesn't really make me want to keep learning Chinese, because think about it. If I go to China, I can't get on Google, I can't get on YouTube. I'm so limited in my freedoms.
Yep.
And I went to Taiwan.
Well, you can go on
and it was
Google
great.
because Google basically, how do they call it these days? Bend the knee. Bing though is blocked. And
whatever. Who wants to use Bing? Honestly, Google's where it's at. I mean,
John C.
Google's where it's at.
Dvorak.
Oh, God, really? I need to talk to
Well,
John.
it's
I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I really
it's
can't
good
stand up to John.
It's good that
I'm sorry, John, if you're
at least
listening.
it's an alternative, and I think it's very important that we don't succumb to the Google bubble, because that is like succumbing to the Chinese bubble or to any one bubble. And this is also essentially my main problem, or my main point of criticism or doubt I have with globalization is it kind of feels like there is this small group outside of the net, the social net, or the sheep who is controlling everything else. Maybe in practice, that's not the case. Maybe in practice we are building like this electronic fence, and we are locking ourselves in before we close it, and get like AI computers making the decisions of who's good and who's evil, like in the Chinese system. But that is also a form of globalization. Another one is how they keep trumpeting the climate, in my opinion, climate hysteria, the climate change. Like there
You really
is
wanna
an
jump into that
external
right now?
crisis. No, not because it's too late for that, but
Yeah.
maybe some other time. And I haven't even made my mind up entirely, although I'm skeptical. I will admit I am skeptical about it.
I want to
So
talk just a second about Google and whatnot. I did use DuckDuckGo for about 10 days. I changed my browser to be DuckDuckGo, which is an alternative to Google, and it was not effective for me. The
You didn't
results
like it?
were not as what I needed. And
I see.
Now, I do use Bing, for the record. Bing has the best, absolute best.
How does...
Hang on. Porn search.
So,
If you're looking for porn,
I see.
Bing gets you the right porn. And you make sure you turn off that safe search.
You know, I think
I
when
don't
it
care.
comes to porn, everybody knows for themselves what they want to do. But okay, that totally got me off track.
It got you off. So you were just searching
It got me
Bing
off
for something right now.
Got me off track. Yeah.
Well, no, honestly, it doesn't matter what your fetish is. Bing has it for you, and I feel like
Bing,
that should be where Bing really strives to get.
You want to play with your ding? Choose Bing.
Bang one out with Bing. Can we make some Bing
There we go.
commercials for the next show?
Bing. Yeah,
Bang
maybe.
it with Bing.
Maybe.
We have the biggest porn selection on the planet. They'll even play the video. They'll play. Don't give me that sound effect. They'll play the preview, so you don't have to go to the actual site. They'll stream it right there for you. It's very, very handy.
Sorry, what do you need me to do?
I need you to bang one out with Bing.
Oh. All right,
Was
ladies and gentlemen.
Was that you banging it out?
I think so. Nobody knows. Anyway.
Bang one out with Bing.
That also hits the 90-minute mark for us. Probably.
Does it? I'm showing a minute and 26
boot or
seconds.
a boot. Oh, well.
Did we want to look at...
yeah, we started a little bit later. But
do we want to look at some of the comments that we've been getting in the live stream?
Sure. Hit me with some YouTube
Here's
comments.
some stuff.
You'll
Nick,
relay those for me. So
Nick Rat says, I'm thinking George might be
Hey,
a
Nick.
pervert.
That's Nick the Rat, man, from the Nick the Rat Show. Everybody check it out. It's so awesome.
You know, it's funny because
nicktherat.com.
earlier he said something about you. I'll see if I can find it. I think he called you a creep at one point. I'm just pointing that out. He said that Mark guy is a creep.
Yeah, Nick, you know. Nick's just Nick. Thanks, Nick. Love you, man.
It's interesting to me because
nicktherat.com, ladies and gentlemen. It's the best comedy podcast I've ever heard. And I always listen. And we also play it on the No Agenda stream. So, how's that? Huh?
Very good. There's a very good plug. And if you want, we can go ahead and add that to the description of this video. I got to say, we have maintained about 25 viewers, which is 10 more than we maintained the first time. I'm very happy about that. And I'm also happy that it seems like
Welcome,
a lot
everyone.
of people are coming in from the non-George Trombley Japanese from Zero side, which I find nice. This is a good mix right now.
The non-George Trombley Japanese from Zero site?
Yes. In other words, when we first started this
Is
stream,
there another one?
Well, I mean, we promoted it on the Japanese from Zero YouTube, but now we definitely are getting a blend, which is kind of nice. Both fandoms are coming together, and I think that's great. Nick Rat
I would
also
also
asked,
like to welcome our 18 or 19 or 20 listeners on the No Agenda stream.
Oh, nice. Well, we're beating them on YouTube, and they're probably overlapping though.
Sorry.
Is
Could
the
resist.
Queen of Netherlands sexy? Nick Rat asks.
The current queen she certainly is eye candy. Yes, I think so.
Oh, is she?
I'd
like to see a picture.
Yes, especially for people who are a little bit older than I am. With my youthful 34 years old, she's a little bit on the old side for me. But you can look her up. Look at Maxima of Orange, because that's the Dutch last name, which is of the royal family.
I'll Bing that right now.
Binger.
We'll see what comes up in the Bing search.
Binger. I need to Binger.
Oh man. Do you know? I can't even read these names. I'm sorry. Some of your names in here. Mindaugas Kaminskas. That's a crazy name.
Kaminskas.
I feel like that's a person that you would know. No. All right.
You are on the YouTube stream. I am just looking at my
Nick the Rat.
Other things here.
Is it Nick the Rat? Because he doesn't say Nick the Rat. It says Nick Rat.
Let's call him Nick the Rat.
Okay.
It's a rat called Nick. So.
He asks, does George have a wall of manga behind him? No, I do not have even one manga. I believe in that group. Those are all language learning books because that used to be behind me in another set. So it's hard to see what they are, but I used to sit in that corner and I had another camera in a different location, and that's where I would stream Japanese from Zero or Korean from Zero podcasts. So it was kind of eye candy for people. I've actually made it more of a functional shelf right now. I can actually pull books off of there, but prior they were all packed so tight I couldn't take anything off. But it's mainly decoration at this point, the stuff on the top there.
And let's be honest, it looks really nice.
I do like how it looks. Yeah, go ahead.
Just because I want to hear your reaction. Let me paste the actual name of the Dutch queen, and you can Bing her. And
well, paste it in don't paste it in Discord because I'd have to remove you. I'd have to hide your camera to make that happen.
Oh, yeah, no, don't.
Can someone in the YouTube stream paste the name of the queen?
I can Skype it to you.
Yeah, I think Skype's on right now, and then I can you can get my raw reaction on the beauty of the queen. Go ahead.
Her name is Maxima Zorregieta.
Go ahead and send it
to me. Her name is not Dutch, by the way. So.
Oh, okay, I see it here. All right, here we go. Let's find out my first hit it. What is it? Hit it, or what's the phrase?
Hit or miss?
Hit or miss. Let's see, hit or miss for the queen. I'm hoping she's not 90 years old.
No, she's not. No, they are still.
Wow. There are definitely some really cute pictures of her. Holy moly.
Yeah.
This one I'm looking at right now. Wow. She's
1971.
She's 1 year older than me.
Oh, there you go.
She's attractive. Yes. Hit.
She is.
Hit. Yes.
Right.
Hit that. I would. Wow.
Hit
that
beautiful. A couple of times. Okay. Maxima. Approved.
You know, the cabal's going to come after us for insulting the queen.
Oh, that's fine. Of course not. Of course not. She's been approved.
SciTech 387 says she kind of looks like the Croatian president. That's her name. Let's check out here we go. Hit or miss. Hit or miss. This is where we evaluate presidents of Croatian president. Whoa, wait a minute. There is a bikini shot of the holy moly.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a fake one, by the way. Because
you don't think so?
That is.
Kolinda Grabar Kitaravovic, whatever.
Yeah, the site I see here is no. This is not the Croatian president.
Okay, well, if that was her.
I have to say that the not Croatian president, she's well
endowed.
She's also royal, but in a different area.
Damn. I'm not normally a fan of, big butts, but this is well proportioned. It's very well balanced. She's well proportioned. Whoever this person is very well balanced. I'm normally into Asian. Like I could look at a flat ass and go, "That's amazing." And my other friends are like, "Are you kidding me? She has an ass." I'm like, "That's kind of nice."
I see.
Let me ask you, Mark. What about you? What's your stance on flat ass?
I haven't really thought of it. I know one thing about the Japanese people, and this is in general, they always say it's not about how you look, it's about how you behave. And I think that also is kind of the mentality I have. I'm attracted to intelligent girls.
That's the same thing.
Maybe not always physically attracted, but emotionally attracted. that's for sure. And physically attracted, well, just give her a big pair of knockers and
well, I think
cute face.
For me, there's a low level attractiveness and a high level of attractiveness, and you can move freely within that range, depending on how well you can hold conversation and if you're an interesting person or you have a good personality.
Yeah,
I've met models in Korea. I'm very attracted to Asian women, and when I go to Korea, I go to these language meetups, and generally I'll find a fairly attractive woman, not very attractive, maybe like classically, if you just saw her picture, based on her picture, she's not attractive. But when you talk to her, you realize, wow, this woman's beautiful. And then there's been other times where I went to dinner. Normally after these meetups, we all head out to get dinner at a chicken place. And sitting there one night with two models that have been in photographic shoots in New York and whatnot, most boringest women I ever talked to on the planet. And their beauty was so fake to me. The girl that was very plain, that was constantly making sure my meat didn't get burned and was having actual conversation with me was way more attractive.
Your meat not getting burned.
Bang it.
Bing it. All right. Well, glad we got that out of the way. Something else on the YouTube. I don't meet a lot of women.
Well,
I just meet the one for me.
Well, I mean, you're kind of busy. You also have a son. I think it'd be awkward if you're meeting women.
True. And I'm taking care of him. I'm very much a feminist, like a traditional feminist, which means she can earn the money and I can take care of the kid.
That is a unique situation, but I think that's going to really. I wanted to say, there's one thing I wanted to add for a second as to why. Jumping back into topic just for a second, actors. Why actors, right? Because it seems dumb, right? But let me explain why actors.
Because why actors? You mean at Davos?
Why actors
for example?
Are at Davos? Why would Matt Damon be doing this water thing, or whatever they're doing in their little pet cause, with Tibet or whatever they're doing, right? Why? And I say the reason why is because they have time and money. And if you look back to some of the greatest,
and maybe they feel kind of responsible because they make so much money.
I would say that's a factor. But if you look back to the greatest invention or some of the, and I got this again, I can't remember which one it was. Probably one of those history of the world books that's fascinating. I was listening to, and they're talking about people like who like Beethoven or Mozart and scientists, and a lot of these people had benefactors that would give them money, Patreons, right, or patrons, and without those patrons, they wouldn't have been able to build their business. Now, that's why Matt Damon can do the water thing or the microfinance. I don't even think he's in it for the finances. He might be, but you can do that because he's not worried about money, right?
Yeah, and he gives me kind of a noble feeling. I mean, honestly, he seems like an okay guy to me. I wouldn't know why he'd be a douchebag or anything.
Well,
people don't really like the Goodwill Huntings of the world, but yeah, he kind of seems like somebody who legitimately is legit about what he's trying to achieve. Bono, I don't know. I think.
Well, what would his ulterior motive be? What would it be?
Maintain his position among his peers. It's the same as how I view the European Union is the highest up in the European Union are the guys who also frequently meet with George Soros, who has certain ideals, but also is a diehard capitalist, and they don't care about the individuals because their ideology is all that matters, and that it feels like it's kind of a religious, no matter the cost kind of approach. So what would his ulterior motive be is to roll out his agenda, no matter the cost, no matter the No matter the history, no matter the traditions, no matter how governments are formed, we just got to do this now. And it felt to me like Matt Damon's initiative was more respecting of existing systems without the ideology has to come first. So I guess that's kind of the difference. And it seems to me like Bono is also the kind of person who just has a certain view, and anyone who does not agree with his view is immediately discarded. It's just, okay, you don't think like me, well, away with you, peasant.
Well, I would say, Mark, that balance does exist, because you have an opposite opinion of them, and there are certainly rich people that have opposite opinions of what George Soros thinks. I don't even know anything about George Soros.
Donald Trump.
Right, but I can tell that he's a guy that you're not into. The Koch brothers, or Koch brothers, or whatever they're called.
Yeah,
they have a certain mentality, and so there's rich people on both sides. It's going to be battled out. There's going to be a give and take. It might go bad for a few years, but it's going to still mean progress.
Of course, and it will exist. And before all of the plans have been integrated, that especially the heavy ideologists, those plans, formed by them, there will be so much influence will have happened, especially from opposing sides. Are you running a steamroller there or something?
I was
driving a steamroller.
I'm sorry, I didn't know you could hear that. I was binging it. I was binging it right now. I apologize.
Okay. No, I don't know. I guess before the ideologies of the heavily religious are put into practice, it so much watering down will have occurred that there's no real threat anymore. But the initial ideology is, like we have to remove a certain amount of CO2 before that and that year, or else we will all have died. Well, stuff like that.
I really don't think you should start the climate thing at 1 hour and 40 minutes into the show.
I won't.
Yeah,
I won't.
I mean,
I won't.
In the end, I always think, you know what? It doesn't really matter, because it's not going to, almost nothing in our lifetime will affect us, most likely. I think that we and you will die in a highly technical society. And if I have the money, I will be put into an artificial intelligent robot body.
Wow. Epic.
Yeah.
That's it. But I think that's a good topic for another show, where we can talk about climate, and we can talk about
what's the name? Cryogenic chambers? Stuff like that.
Let's set this up for show number 4. 2 topics I'd like to bring up are, I think you should handle the climate change, because you definitely are very much more passionate about it than I am. And I want to talk about transferring my body into, or sex robots. Either way, transferring my body. I don't want to be a sex robot, but
sex robot is. You need to talk with someone else about that stuff, because
what?
Yeah, man. I'm not. I get all
no. You know what?
Complex, or
we're talking about.
I don't know what to say about it.
We're talking about it. I will have clips that will convince you one way or the other. How about that?
I mean, this is George at markandgeorgeshow.com, ladies and gentlemen. You can email him if you like this idea or not. The email address works. I made sure of that.
It does work? Okay. Where does it go to my other account? Does it forward to
right
me?
Now it goes to me.
Okay. Well, there you go.
I will.
I'll certainly see that, guys.
Yeah. Yes, you will.
Well, this feels like a good time to end. I know you're in charge of ending, but it feels good.
I'm looking of. I don't know. I still have the old show close tune. I mean, I can play that one.
Actually, I'd like to wait. Can I play one?
Yes,
because I have a friend. His name is he's a new artist on iTunes. His name is Clark Alone. He's actually my he's been my trainer and coach at the gym for the last year, and he took a big change in his life. And he said, he's 53, but he said, I'm going to do this music thing I've been meaning to do. And he just released this tune, and I'd like to. He said I could play it if I had a place to play it, and I feel like this would be good. Is that all right if I play it here?
Yes.
All right.
Please do.
This is called. It's actually political.
Should we
in
say
nature.
goodbye first?
We
Thanks
should say
for listening,
goodbye.
everyone.
Yep. We're gonna close it with a song called "Star Spangled Fool" by Clark Alone.
And when is the next Mark and George show?
The next Mark and George show, I believe, is next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday at
12.
the same time.
12 Pacific time.
Yes. 9 Central European time. 8 Universal Time Coordinate. 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
You could all
Is that the name
certainly
for it?
Bing a time of
Bing it.
12 p.m. and then do some porn. Here it
kind
is.
of keeper, right? Bing.
I know. I like that. Every time we mention Bing, that's the Bing sound. All right, here we go. Star Spangled Fool from Clark Alone.
All right. See you next time, everyone. Take care.
Never mind. Hang on.
And,
Hang on. I wasn't ready.
Ooh.
I had the wrong plug-in. You have to give me a second.
Live show,
All right.
people.
That
These
was so
things
smooth.
are to be expected.
That was so smooth.
Meanwhile, I'll just.
Here we go. Star Spangled. That's not it. Star Spangled Fool by Clark Alone. Hopefully, I won't blow your ears out.
Adios.
Yeah, know where you at. Yeah, know where y'all at. Yeah, know where we at.
Yeah, if you can reduce the sound a little bit to me.
Yeah, know where you at. Yeah, know where y'all at. Yeah, know where we at. Oh, say, can you see all this hypocrisy? So proud that you ignore. Hiding behind the stars and stripes. I'm always wrong, you're always right. Man, I can't take it no more. I love this country just like you, but I ain't no star-spangled fool. I ain't no star-spangled fool, no. I love this country just like you, but I ain't no star-spangled fool. I ain't no star-spangled fool, no. Bombs bursting in the air, over here and over there. Lie me the reasons why. United we make our stand, divided no way we can. You can run but we can't hide. I love this country just like you, but I ain't no star-spangled fool. I ain't no star-spangled fool, no. I love this country just like you, but I ain't no star-spangled fool. I ain't no star-spangled fool, no. Rock the boat, cut your rope, be the goat, don't be no fool. Rock the boat, cut your rope, be the goodest of all time, but don't you be no fool, nah me. There'll be peril in this fight, but we see proof through the night that the people really care. See, cause now's the time for change. All the things remain the same. Tell me, do you dream today? I love this country just like you, but I ain't no star-spangled fool. I ain't no star-spangled fool, no. I love this country just like you, but I ain't no star-spangled fool. I ain't no star-spangled fool, no. I love this country just like you, but I ain't no star-spangled fool. I ain't no star-spangled fool, feel it no. Now. Make 'em feel it, y'all. Make 'em feel it now. I love this country just like everybody you, say, but I ain't no star-spangled everybody fool. Now. I ain't no star-spangled Make 'em fool, feel it no. Now. Make 'em feel it, y'all. I love this country just like you.
Thank you for watching. We'll see you all next Tuesday.
Yeah, the Netherlands, man. It's a great country, you know. See you next time, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.